You might know us as the YouTubers who travel across the United States. I recently posted a picture of me as a child on our channel, and it prompted you guys to want to know my life story, a biography. But my life started off in a much different place. I was born in Camaguey, Cuba. My father was in prison for 5 years for refusing military service. We lived in a somewhat poor neighborhood for the country of Cuba, and our family had a horse, which was our only means of making money. By the age of 4, I had had 3 accidents that were deliberately done to me as a child to intimidate my parents into taking a military job that the government wanted my father to take. When my parents figured out that the accidents were being done on purpose, they put me out on the road as a bait to capture the people that were doing it, and they were able to capture a man who just about ran me over with a motorcycle. This person was then interrogated, and we found out that this person was being sent by the government to hurt us, and that if we stayed in this country, we would always be under threat of our lives. I had to leave with my father. My mother had to stay behind. I was 6 years old, and the only thing that I knew was that the place we were going to was called Kentucky. Imagine being 6 years old and having to leave your mother and go to a different country. In 1996, without my mother, I entered the United States. That's my grandma with me. My sister, who since a child had cared for me, was like a mother to me. Later on, my mother, who's in this photo, did come to the United States, and she was able to travel a lot. Traveling was her passion. We went to Chicago, West Palm Beach, and we traveled a lot. My mother was an avid traveler. Here's me in the late 90s getting ready for our first day of school. Kentucky was really difficult. I even got to meet the mayor of Louisville, Kentucky. As you can see, my finger is blurred out. I was a very bad kid. When I first arrived in Louisville, Kentucky, it was absolutely terrifying. Imagine coming to a new country, and this is what you saw. Apartment complexes, completely empty. Just the most horrific sight in the world to come from Cuba to see this. We were here for 3 months until my mother came from Cuba. When my mother arrived from Cuba, she immediately said that we were not going to live in these apartments. Me walking through these streets, my mother not being in this country, it was cold, it was icy, and my grandma would come pick me up at 5:30 in the morning so she could babysit me, because immediately after arriving in the United States, my father and my sister started to work, and therefore my grandma had to babysit me. Louisville, Kentucky was a very tough place. When we arrived, there wasn't too many Spanish-speaking people. We were bused to the West End. The West End is historically African American, and it is the poorest and most dangerous section of the city. I became friends with everybody in the school, and we were like a little family. Even though we did not live in their neighborhood, we were all friends. We were all good together, and we were starting to grow up together. Everything seemed to finally be taking place. And then one day, we went to Florida, and we never came back to Kentucky. I never got to say bye to my friends. I didn't even know we were moving. Something happened at my dad's workplace, and it was a bad situation. Many memories were created in Louisville, Kentucky that were beautiful, and despite the fact that there was gang violence and a lot of fighting in school, I had friends, and this was home. In the year 2000, we arrived in Naples, Florida. When we entered the street where my parents told me I was going to live, I told them I'm not going to live in a mobile home, and I was very upset. When I went to school the first day in Naples, Florida, I was very rude and very mean to the other kids because in my mind, I was going to go back to Kentucky. The kids would make fun of me for not having name brand clothes, and we were constantly being bullied for being poor. These kids in Naples, Florida treated us like garbage. They made fun of our clothes, they made fun of our shoes, they made fun of the neighborhood where we lived, and the whole time that I lived in Naples, Florida as a teenager, I became very angry, and I entered activities that were not really fitting for my age. To complicate the situation, my mother became ill with cancer at the age of 14. By the age of 16, she had already perished after passing 2 years terminally ill with cancer. In that time period, I was out of control. Nobody could stop me, nobody could talk to me, and I spent more time out at night than I did in the daytime. At the age of 16, when my mother died, I walked away from my mother's body. I was 16 years old. I was walking back to Kentucky. I was done with Naples. and I was ready to leave and run away from that place. I was kicked out of Gulf Coast High School, and I was missing school often. A lot of times because I was up at night late, other times because I was working for a landscaping company. At 16 years old, I was driving a commercial vehicle and I was running a landscaping company because the situation at home economically was so bad. In high school and in middle school, I sold bubblegum in school to make my lunch money. My family could not provide me with anything. I've been working since I was 14 years old to pay my own food and sometimes even rent in the place that we were living because our economical situation was that bad. At 18 years old, I met Katie, and Katie and I were married. We have been living together since the day we met, and pretty much since the moment we met, we knew we were going to be married. 2 weeks after our marriage, we were fired from work, and next thing you know, we're in the middle of a recession where people were losing their homes, people were losing their jobs. Katie and I were 18 years old, trying to take care of ourselves in a time where there wasn't even any jobs. I remember that every single day I would go into the woods and pick up beer cans. Difficult times of our life. Immediately, the first few years of our marriage were extraordinarily difficult. In a time where people were losing their homes, I remember one night all we had was a small meal. The first few years of our life were economically challenging, and we went through some very, very difficult times. In 2011, I was able to go and take Katie to Cuba, and she was able to see the country where I was born and meet my family members that live there. Going to Cuba was the only really nice thing we did in all those years. Despite the fact we live in Naples, Florida, I didn't really enjoy living in Naples, Florida. We did a lot of fishing, but we were in economical hardships, and fishing was kind of like an escape for me to get away from all of our economical hardships that we faced at the time. Finally, in the year 2012, I caught a break. I started working for a pigeon racing club, and despite the fact we weren't really making money, we were kind of breaking even. We were able to travel on their dime to release the pigeons. We were able to go to South Carolina. And then I started a YouTube channel for the Pigeon Racing Club, and this was a really awesome adventure. I got my first YouTube gig in Wisconsin, and things were going great. I was interviewing people all over the country. My YouTube channel became the largest channel about the pigeon racing sport, and I even got to interview legends like Tony Malucci. The pigeon racing sport had a lot of drama, and I got out of that. I started a YouTube channel about fishing, and it started to make money, but the overhead was too high. I uploaded a YouTube video driving around Arcadia, Florida. At this time, I had about 10 different YouTube channels. The pigeon racing channel was making me money, and I figured out how to make money on YouTube. So I started 10 different channels to see which channel would bring in the most income, and it turned out that driving around neighborhoods was really where it was at. So I decided to move to Alabama. After 2 years on the market, the house finally sold. We received $100,000, maybe a little bit more, and we used that money to buy a house in Alabama. Everybody told us that moving to Alabama was going to be a huge mistake because we would starve in Alabama, but at that time, my YouTube was making me combine all my channels about $1,000 a month. Back then, I thought that was a lot of money, and we had enough money to pay a house cash, so I figured that I would have enough money to where even if I couldn't find a job in Alabama, I would not be that bad off. So we went on the adventure. We left Naples, Florida. I was sick of the traffic. I was sick of everything I had mentioned about this town, all the bad memories, and even more. I was sick of Naples, Florida, and I was ready for a new experience. Made a few videos explaining why I hated Naples and why I was going to move, and it became an online sensation and people started to follow our adventure in Alabama. We made a YouTube video on our driveway packing boxes. We're leaving to Alabama. We left with $700 because the money from the real estate transaction was still in escrow. The next day we woke up in Dothan, Alabama. We're at a McDonald's drive-thru. We look at our bank account and the money had come through. That same day, we signed a contract in a house in Montgomery, Alabama. However, the realtor told us we should really not move to Montgomery. He would show us a place in the suburbs that might be better. Turned out that the place in the suburbs was really a very, very bad neighborhood. We encountered racism on a level we have never experienced in our life. We experienced gun violence on a level we had never experienced. We had been threatened. We had been robbed. We went to law enforcement, and law enforcement told us that we weren't from there and perhaps we should return back to where we were from. Leaving Alabama was very scary. There's details of our move that we have not shared with you guys. In fact, what I experienced in Alabama was scarier than anything else I had experienced my entire life. The last month that we spent in Alabama, I had an AR-12 assault rifle, and we carried that everywhere we went, even if it was just to the gas station. We started to sleep during the daytime and be up at night. We changed our schedules. We would go to grocery stores and places we never went to, and we became completely military about changing our routine because we knew that we were being tracked. Last month in Alabama was the most miserable month of my life, and I'm working very hard to remove those qualities from me because I came back to Florida and I became entrenched into who I really am. Came back to my hood, came back to my family, came back to fishing and being the person that I was when I left to Alabama, because the person that I became in Alabama isn't the person that I was or that I wanted to be. In Florida, I never needed a gun. In Florida, I never needed to watch my back. I'm not going to tell you the neighborhood that I lived in is perfect because it had a lot of problems. But when I came back to Florida this time, I didn't come back to the hood. I wanted to see New York City. We went and we saw it. My wife wanted to go to Michigan, where she's from. We've been to Michigan twice. A while back, we wanted to go see the snow. I drove all the way to Michigan so she could see the snow. She wants to go to Orlando, see SeaWorld. I take her to Orlando to see SeaWorld. I went to the Chevy dealership and I bought a 2021 0 miles brand new truck, cash money. I went to the ATV store and I bought the Honda ATV that I wanted, cash money. Everything that we've ever wanted, every desire of my heart, from clothing to travel to cars. Since we left Alabama, I have given myself every pleasure and every desire imaginable on the face of this earth because I realized that life is short and you could lose your life one day. I learned that in Alabama. So when I came back to Florida, I really said, you know what? I'm going to do everything that I've ever wanted. I wanted to buy a brand new car. Went to the dealership. I bought it cash. Everything that I've wanted, I did it. Because after the experience I lived in Alabama, I realized that, you know what? You're not going to live forever. One day something's going to happen and your life's going to come to an end. And Alabama changed me in a lot of ways. And the only thing that I do appreciate is now that I have a lot more income, I am not afraid of anything. I've traveled and seen the United States. That's where we're at right now. Life has definitely been a roller coaster of ups and downs. And like the waves of the sea, there's times when you're up and there are times when you're down. There's times when you're rich and there's times when you're poor. There's times when you're happy and there's times when you're sad. One thing that I'm not going to do is dwell on all the harm they did to me in Cuba, all the fights I had in Kentucky growing up in gang neighborhoods, all of the abuse and bullying that I dealt with in Naples for not being rich, all of the racism that I dealt with in Alabama, and all the challenges that I have today living in Florida. Again, I'm not going to dwell on all these negative things. I'm not going to let hate and resentment for other people or politics or any of that garbage contaminate who I am as a person. I want to get up every single day and say, where am I going today? What places am I going to explore? And how many people can I help with my content who are in the same situations that I have been in my own personal life? Because just like I dealt with cancer and oppression and hate and violence and greedy people trying to take what's mine, I know there's people out there right now who are going through that. Can I bring a smile to that person? Can I use all my life experiences, the things that I've been through, to bring a smile to somebody else's day? What matters isn't how much money you got in the bank. It doesn't matter if you're a millionaire or if you're homeless. You are the person that you are today because that's who you are. And you cannot let material things, whether you're waking up in a mansion in Naples, Florida, or you're waking up on a sidewalk in Birmingham, Alabama, that doesn't determine who you are as a person. Because when I went through my hardships in Alabama, I learned that you're the same person you are whether you're rich or you're poor, or you're free, or you're incarcerated. You are the same person you are. And if you're going to let your circumstances determine how you feel about yourself, then you're vain. Your value is encryptically tied to the value of your assets, how much investment you have. No. When I left Alabama, I had nothing. They took my home from me. The realtor put a lockbox on my house. The police wouldn't go and get those people out of my house. Luckily, one day they transferred us the money. So that's how the real estate transaction went down in Alabama. One day I look at my bank account and they finally decided to send me the money for the home. They knew they had to do it eventually, but they wanted to make me feel as powerless as they could because that's the way that state works. At the end of the day, it didn't matter. I was homeless for a while. I didn't tell you guys that. We slept in our car for a few nights. And now I have a big truck and a big trailer. And a lot of the people that turned their backs on me when me and Katie were homeless, now they want to ask for favors. No. You know, one thing that did change from the Alabama experience is before Alabama, I used to help everybody. I used to give everybody my time. And I'm not like that anymore. With reason. Because when me and Katie went through our hardships, everybody hid their hands from us. Everybody acted like they didn't know us. But now they want to be our friends because we're doing better economically and we can benefit them. No. When I needed you, you weren't there for me. I know that throughout my life, my biggest weakness is how big my heart is. Because when you have a big heart, you help people and they take advantage of you. And that's really sad, but I've come to know that I can help people, but I help people that I don't even know. I do generous, kind acts, but not to somebody within my circle, to somebody randomly that I don't know. You know why? Because there's no way that person can thank me back or I can hold it over them. That's the way we move now. Life has been a learning experience. My grandparents left the Canary Islands. My parents left Cuba. Then we left Kentucky. Then we left Florida. Then we left Alabama. And now we're back in Florida. Unfortunately, having to migrate to other countries or escape for your life has been part of my family heritage for many generations now. When my grandparents left the Canary Islands in Spain in the 1930s, there was a civil war and they were better off and they had to leave because whatever they had was taken. We lost many homes when we left Cuba. My family had properties. We lost all of that. So generation after generation, what we have acquired has always been taken and stripped away from us by oppressive governments who want to give it to somebody else. So I'm not going to let material things, if I ever become wealthy and I buy the house on the beach, if I'm ever there, that house isn't going to determine who I am as a person. Because I remember that I've been homeless. I remember that at 6 years old, I was walking down a sidewalk without my mother. At 15 years old, I was watching my mother sick. At 16, I watched my mother die. And I've been working since I was 14 years old to take care of myself. So I know that who I am as a person, the only thing that I got is these two hands to work and take care of us and provide for us. I'm a hardworking person, and I'm not going to let what I have or what I don't have determine who I am as a person, because at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is what's in your heart. Michigan. Look at this. How many miles we got in already? 3,000.
Yeah.
And this
is the scary part.
Metal grates.
Yeah.
Bro, that is so cold. Oh, bro. The rocks feel nice and warm too. 2021 Silverado, 4,000 miles that it's just picked up this week. First time using 4x4. I guess you gotta go here, put it in park. That's 4 high. Okay, I don't know how this works, but it's 4x4. You think I'll make it through there?
Well, you got that 4x4.
You think we'll make it or no?
You got that 4x4.
I don't even think with the 4x4 we should do it. Say we or no?
It's up to you.
No, let's try to back up.
It's hard bottom.
You think it's hard bottom? It looks pretty crappy to me. Oh crap, we don't want to scratch it. Oh crap.
No.
Oh crap. Are we gonna make it over there?
Yeah,
Okay,
because once you get past that little patch, it's easy.
Alright.